Picture yourself, alone, soaring through the vast darkness of the night sky. The steady hum of your aircraft, a Cessna 182, echoes around you. Suddenly, an unidentified object appears, hovering ominously 1,000 feet above you. Desperately, you radio air traffic control. An eerie silence follows, broken only by the chilling sound of scraping metal. This is not a scene from a science fiction movie. This is the last known transmission of Frederick Valentich. Frederick Valentich, born to Italian immigrants in Melbourne, had his heart set on flying since he was 12. Described as a quiet, friendly, and determined young man, he spent his days dutifully serving customers at a disposal store, and his evenings with his nose buried in a book about UFOs and space, his dreams constantly orbiting around the thrill of flight. Frederick diligently trained with the Air Training Corps in his teens before earning his private pilot's license. His parents supported his ambitious goal of obtaining a commercial license, despite their safety concerns. He was intensely driven yet superstitious. He told few people about his flight training, fearing that could jinx his chances. By October 1978, the 20-year-old was fully immersed in his coursework, attending regular meteorology lectures on top of his full-time job. In his spare time, Valentich voraciously read about UFOs, saving newspaper clippings and reading up on extraterrestrial sightings. According to his father Guido, Valentich's fascination with the unknown had only grown more intense in recent years. He provides rare insight into his son's mindset leading up to that fateful flight.
My son Frederick had been utterly captivated by UFOs and the idea of life beyond Earth from a young age. He was an avid reader, books like Chariots of the Gods, saving articles about extraterrestrials, even getting access to classified RAAF files on UFO sightings at bases in East Sale and Laverton. He was sworn to secrecy about those confidential documents, of course, so he didn't discuss specifics with us. This obsession only grew stronger over the last few years. About 8 months back, Frederick's mother saw a massive stationary light in the night sky, 10 times bigger than a star. She called for Frederick, and he saw it too before it shot away at remarkable speed. There was no denying it seemed otherworldly. After that, even I became convinced UFOs must be real. But Frederick worried about the implications. What could these crafts do if hostile? Could we defend ourselves? I told him there was no use worrying about things out of our control. He was always searching for answers though, hoping to uncover the truth about what's out there.
On that fateful evening of October 21st, 1978, Valentich's excitement was tangible as he prepared for his flight to King Island. First discovered in 1799, King Island proved a haven for sealers and whalers exploiting its bountiful marine mammals in the early 1800s. But even these rugged sailors faced doom in the island's shipwreck graveyard, with skeletal hulls strewn along the rocky coast like omens. To date, King Island has been the location of over 60 known shipwrecks, involving the loss of over 2,000 lives. Much like the decaying ship swallowed by its rough waves, King Island would soon claim another victim in Frederick Valentich. According to the official report, Valentich obtained a Class 4 instrument rating on May 11, 1978, which authorized him to operate at night in conditions where he could rely on his visual ability rather than on instrumentation. On the afternoon of October 21, 1978, he arrived at the Moorabbin briefing office where he received a weather briefing and submitted a flight plan. He informed the briefing officer that he intended to pick up friends at King Island. For this reason, he carried 4 life jackets in the aircraft with him. This is where the mystery starts. While Valentich told the flight officials he was headed to King Island to pick up some friends, he told others that he was going there to get crayfish. This makes you wonder, what was he really up to, and why did he feel the need to change his story? Derry Hogan, the briefing officer at Moorabbin Airport, later recounted how he met with Valentich the day of his ill-fated flight.
As the briefing officer at Moorabbin that evening, I spoke with Frederick Valentich when he came in around 5:15 p.m. on October 21, 1978. I knew of him since we were both in the Air Training Corps. He was asking about the weather en route to King Island and what their requirements were for landing. I told him I didn't have much info on that, but that he should call them directly with passenger details and let Melbourne know his plans too. Frederick seemed to be in a normal frame of mind. I advised that since King Island Airport was closed, on the off chance that any search and rescue operations had to happen, they would need to be coordinated by phone from Melbourne. He didn't request any lights at the airport or discuss lighting with me, really. After he left, I drove around the tarmac, and I think I saw him taxiing his plane to the runway. I can't say for certain it was him, but the timing matched up. From what I knew of Frederick, he was an average pilot, nothing exceptional in any way that I could tell. We didn't have much social contact, so I'm not sure about his personal habits. He definitely didn't mention anything about UFOs or seem concerned. Just a routine pre-flight briefing as far as I could tell at the time. I wish now I had some clue of what was about to happen.
The journey was a routine 125 nautical mile flight, a path he had likely traversed numerous times before. The cruising altitude for the flight was below 5,000 feet, and the estimated time intervals were 41 minutes to Cape Atway and 28 minutes from Cape Atway to King Island. The total fuel endurance was shown as 300 minutes, ample time for a smooth round trip. The first part of the flight was uneventful, the monotony only broken by the occasional radio check-in with air traffic control. The minutes ticked by, each one taking Valentich closer to King Island. However, about 40 minutes into the flight, the routine nature of the journey took a dramatic turn. Valentich, flying at an altitude of 4,500 feet, noticed something unusual. An object appeared in his vicinity, nearly 1,000 feet above him, according to his estimates. At first, he thought it was another plane, but at 7:06 p.m., Valentich made the first of several radio contacts with Melbourne Air Flight Service.
Is there any known traffic below 5,000? Delta Sierra Juliet. No known traffic, Delta Sierra Juliet. Seems to be a large aircraft below 5,000. Delta Sierra Juliet, what type of aircraft is it? I cannot affirm. It seems to be like landing lights. Melbourne, this is Delta Sierra Juliet. The aircraft has just passed over me, at least 1,000 feet above. It seems to me that he's playing some sort of game. He's flying over me 2-3 times at a time, at speeds I could not identify. Delta Sierra Juliet. No known aircraft in the vicinity. It seems like it's stationary. What I'm doing right now is orbiting. And the thing is just orbiting on top of me also. It's all shiny on the outside. It's just vanished. Delta Sierra Juliet. Confirm the aircraft just vanished. The engine is rough idling. I've got it set at 23, 24, and the thing is coughing. Delta Sierra Juliet. That strange aircraft is hovering on top of me again. It is hovering and it's not an aircraft.
At 7:12 p.m., all communications with Valentich were abruptly cut off, accompanied by a mysterious, metallic scraping noise. The cause of this noise has spurred furious debate over the years, but remains unexplained. While the official Valentich ATC audio has never been released, a copy recently appeared on Reddit. UFO researcher Richard Haynes was long suspected of possessing this elusive audio and had reportedly presented it to the press. A recording of that presentation has now emerged online, revealing the original Valentich ATC audio, albeit in poor quality. Although Valentich's words are largely indiscernible, the unsettling metallic sounds are audible before the transmission ceases. We've done our best to enhance this rare, unreleased audio for your listening.
Hear that? side. North on his care side.
A sea and air search was quickly undertaken. That included ocean-going ship traffic, an RAAF Lockheed P-3 Orion aircraft, plus 8 civilian aircraft. The search encompassed over 1,000 square miles.
He's supposed to join us with friends when we went for some movie, family movie projection. And that night, he never turned up. He didn't ring up. Normally, he's always, when he go for a trip, when he return at the airport, he normally would have called us, you know, I'll be home after an hour or so. But that night, it was quite strange, you know.
On October 22nd, in the ensuing dawn, an RAAF Orion, a renowned long-range maritime reconnaissance aircraft, took to the skies. The entirety of that Sunday was spent dissecting the strait below. Late in the afternoon, an oil slick was spotted 18 miles north of King Island. Swiftly, a beacon was dropped to mark the location. A sample of the oil slick was taken by a vessel that happened to be passing through the area. Back on land, the Defense Department Materials Research Laboratory was tasked with analyzing the sample. The analysis found that the oil slick sample was consistent with bunker fuel oil, not gasoline or lubricating oil typically used in aircraft. Since the sample was collected using a scoop method that retrieved only a limited amount of material, no residue remained for additional testing. Furthermore, the latitude and longitude where the sample was taken did not precisely match the location of Valentich's last radio transmissions. The exhaustive search ultimately yielded no concrete evidence to explain the disappearance. According to the official report, the search continued until the 25th of October with no wreckage located. Fleeting hopes were raised when a reconnaissance plane spotted objects resembling a life jacket and fuselage fragments. However, a merchant ship identified these as discarded debris, fruit cartons and plastic bags. Extensive searches of Cape Otway and King Island were similarly fruitless. With no tangible leads, the search was reluctantly suspended that Wednesday night. Fred Valentich's mysterious encounter swiftly catapulted into the international media spotlight, shifting the narrative from the typical ambiguous UFO stories that often dominated headlines to something more tangible. This incident not only captured imaginations worldwide, but also sparked a global debate over the fate of the Australian pilot. Among the many theories posited to explain Frederick Valentich's sudden and baffling vanishing, investigator B.J. Mahoney outlined several possibilities in his official report. Scenario 1. Given Frederick's insistent radio transmissions about seeing a mysterious craft that he stressed was not an aircraft, extraterrestrial explanations emerged as an initial theory. However, Mahoney observed no sightings of any large, brightly lit alien vessel were reported in the vicinity. Intriguingly, it was later found that multiple witnesses actually did see unusual lights in the sky that evening, contradicting the claim of no other corroborating sightings. Scenario 2. Disorientation leading to an uncontrolled crash into the sea, but in that event, wreckage likely would have been found. Scenario 3. A controlled landing and ditching of the plane before it sank could account for the lack of debris. Scenario 4. Perhaps Valentich secretly landed safely at an unknown remote location, misleading air traffic control about his true position. A failed attempt at an emergency landing in a remote area may have led to a crash that simply hasn't been discovered yet. To lend credence to this theory, Mahoney also noted that Frederick's girlfriend seemed to enjoy the publicity limelight surrounding the disappearance. She did not appear to be unduly concerned and gave the impression that she expected to see him again. She claimed that there was a permanency to her relationship with Frederick and that they had plans for becoming engaged, but his father dismissed the relationship as being of no consequence. In the weeks following the disappearance, investigators spoke with those closest to him to piece together the perplexing mystery. One interview, conducted in 1978, offers an intimate voice. Valentich's girlfriend at the time, Rhonda Rushton. During the interview, she offered her own theory of the origin of the strange noise from Fred's final transmission.
Fred always took flying very seriously. I remember flying with him several times from Moorabbin to Essendon and back again over Melbourne. He knew so much about aircraft and was an excellent pilot in my eyes, though he did have some particular habits. He would always click the microphone button after a transmission, never putting it back in the rack but leaving it in his lap instead. With all the legroom in the Cessna, he'd often slide his seat rearwards during the flight. I think the metallic scraping sound people heard could have just been his seat sliding back and the mic in his lap getting activated. Frederick liked to plan ahead for any emergency. He told me that if anything ever went wrong in the plane, I should look for a straight road or long paddock to land in. I believe he would have worn his life jacket for the flight over Bass Strait as a precaution.
6 weeks after Valentich vanished, an amateur photographer named Roy Manifold came forward with some startling evidence. On the evening of Valentich's flight, Manifold had been setting up to photograph a sunset at Cape Atway, which was almost directly under Valentich's flight path. Manifold had taken 6 photographs of the sun disappearing into the sea, but when he developed them, he noticed a peculiar blemish on one of the prints. He described it as a mark that, quote, looked like a developing error or something that had mussed up. However, he soon realized that the night he took that photograph was the exact night that Valentich disappeared. Manifold's photos revealed an unexplained object, a presence that he himself had neither seen nor heard during his photography session. The image was so perplexing that even Kodak, the film's manufacturer, could not provide an explanation. They confirmed that the anomaly was not due to a developing error, film defect, or any other known photographic issue. The object was there, but its origin and nature remained a mystery. Paul Norman, a UFO researcher, was convinced that Manifold's photographs held the key to something extraordinary. He sent the images to the Ground Saucer Watch laboratories in America for further analysis. Their findings were startling. The photographs depicted a solid metallic object approximately 7 meters in diameter, located about 2 kilometers out at sea. The object was surrounded by a mist, suggesting it had just emerged from the water. Amazingly, Valentich's aircraft was heard passing overhead by Manifold just moments after he had taken his photographs. Computer analysis and enhancement of the UFO in Manifold's photograph revealed that the object was a solid, metallic, reflective sphere, approximately 70 feet in diameter. This discovery, coupled with the fact that the picture was taken just minutes before Manifold heard Valentich's airplane, suggests that this may be the craft Valentich encountered moments before he vanished without a trace. Despite the compelling evidence, some experts have dismissed the connection between the UFO and Valentich's disappearance, arguing that Valentich may have become disoriented while he was flying. Michael Falls, a grizzled flight instructor, floated the idea that Valentich might have gambled his life by flying blind in the twilight, relying on his instincts rather than his instruments. Now, it's worth noting that Valentich had only one previous night flight and barely 15 hours of nocturnal flying to his name. Even the Department of Transport weighed in, expressing doubts about Valentich's experience and suggesting an accidental flip could have seen him looking at his own lights in the water. The letter from the Department of Transport paints Valentich in an extremely unflattering light. Written just days after his disappearance, the letter suggests human factors, and Valentich's own shortcomings likely played a role. The letter disparages Valentich's piloting skills and intellect. It states he created a facade about his abilities and achievements, when in reality he had a poor academic record, low IQ, and failed pilot exams. The harsh language seems intended to undermine Valentich's credibility and cast him as an incompetent pilot prone to poor judgment. The letter requests aviation medicine experts evaluate Valentich's mental stability, further implying issues with his psychological state. The dismissive tone toward Valentich is rather shocking given the pilot was still missing, and distraught family members were awaiting answers. While examining human factors is reasonable in an investigation, the letter's harshness seems unprofessional and unfair to the missing pilot. The derisive language reveals apparent bias against Valentich by authorities. The letter suggests officials had already formed conclusions about the reasons for his disappearance within days, with little concrete evidence. Another theory suggests that Valentich simply staged the entire event as a hoax, with plans to dramatically reappear as a contactee and earn himself some fame, maybe even a cult following. His family painted a portrait of a man so intrigued by extraterrestrial life that he believed an invasion was imminent. His girlfriend Rhonda even shared that he'd once vowed to accompany any visiting UFO, though not without her. So could Valentich have engineered this grand disappearance to fulfill his UFO fascination? His father insisted that despite his son's interest in UFOs, Valentich was not one for dramatics. He was described as a serious, disciplined flyer on his way to earning his commercial pilot's license. He was even handpicked as an air training instructor for his level-headedness. Those close to him, including his superiors, found it hard to believe that he'd throw away his career and his family for a sensational stunt. For decades, the full official report on Valentich's disappearance was lost, locked up in a tangle of bureaucratic red tape, with only a summary and transcript released. Like many others, researcher Keith Basterfield had been told the report was likely destroyed. Yet in a chance online search, Basterfield found the lost report had been hiding in plain sight, digitized in the National Archives. This report, whose pages you can see throughout this video, reveals investigators actually found aircraft wreckage in Bass Strait in 1983. The wreckage had partial serial numbers falling within the range of Valentich's plane, suggesting it very likely could be debris from his Cessna. This potential match seriously dents theories that Valentich staged an elaborate disappearance hoax. However, it does not fully solve what caused his plane to crash. With no evidence in the report indicating suicide or hallucination, Valentich's distraction by a potential collision with a UFO cannot be ruled out. Ultimately, the discovery of the lost report provides new clues but no concrete answers. To this day, this mystery remains unsolved. The Bass Strait still whispers Valentich's name, a poignant echo of a puzzle yet unsolved. Every unexplained light, every unidentified sighting, brings us back to his haunting story. In the vast expanse of the cosmos, there is much we have yet to uncover, many mysteries still waiting in the wings. Valentich's unresolved story serves as a stark reminder of the infinite enigma that the universe remains.